Good morning, everyone. So it's a fresh start today. Today I'll be talking about. Good morning, I'm Dr. Roshni, in General Medicine Department. Today I'll be discussing about one of the important topics, that is chronic hepatitis. Both clinically and theoretically, it is important. Okay. So how much ever we discuss this and read about it, we have been reading it since third semester, but it is a highly vaporizing topic. So kindly just note down main points. Okay. I'll be brushing your knowledge. It's literally brushing your knowledge. Okay. You must have discussed main points of acute hepatitis. I'll be discussing about acute hepatitis. I'll be starting about acute and then going slowly into chronic. Okay. So chronic hepatitis represents a series of liver disorders of varying causes and severity in which hepatic inflammation and necrosis continue for at least 6 months. Okay, milder forms are non-progressive or only slowly progressive, while more severe forms may be associated with scarring and architectural reorganization, which when advanced lead ultimately to cirrhosis. Several categories of chronic hepatitis have been recognized. These include chronic viral hepatitis, drug-induced chronic hepatitis, and autoimmune chronic hepatitis. So today we'll be discussing about chronic viral hepatitis, that too mainly chronic hepatitis B. The other hepatitis, that is D and autoimmune hepatitis and drug-induced, will be discussed in the later on class next week. Okay. So what is the classification of chronic hepatitis? This is the older classification. This is not preferred nowadays. It used to be classified as from the milder forms to the severe forms. The milder forms are chronic persistent hepatitis, chronic lobular hepatitis, and the severe form is the chronic active hepatitis. Okay. But nowadays, why this older classification is not preferred? Because only histological and clinical wise classification is alone is not important. We require more. The serological wise is also important. So together they classified like this. So categorization of chronic hepatitis based primarily on histopathological uh, of clinical, serological and histological variables. So the newer classification is based on its cause, its histologic activity or grade, its degree of progression based on the level of fibrosis or the stage. So what is the etiology of chronic hepatitis? It is either viral, that is hepatitis B, hepatitis C, or hepatitis D virus. It could be due to drugs like alpha methyl dopa isoniazid. It could be alcoholic liver disease. And the other one is non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, and other metabolic causes, primary biliary cirrhosis, sclerosing cholangitis, alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, Wilson's disease, hemochromatosis. The other one is autoimmune hepatitis, which is divided into type 1, type 2, and type 3, and the last cryptogenic. So these are the causes of chronic hepatitis. Okay. So coming to the main topic, so as I told you, I'll be discussing about chronic viral hepatitis and mainly chronic hepatitis B. Remember, chronic hepatitis D is also associated with chronic hepatitis B. Mane, chronic hepatitis B infection should be there for the activation of chronic hepatitis D virus. So since this class is very extensive class, the chronic hepatitis D virus will be discussed in later on. Okay. So the entire, coming to chronic hepatitis B. Entire clinico-pathological spectrum of chronic hepatitis occurs in patients with chronic viral hepatitis B and C, as well as in patients with chronic hepatitis D, superimposed on chronic hepatitis B. That's what I mentioned before. So here is a main point. See, infection at birth is associated with clinically silent acute infection, but a 90% chance of chronic infection, whereas infection in young adulthood or in immunocompetent person turning into chronicity is 1%. So when there is an acute infection at birth, turning into chronicity, the chances are 90%. When there is an infection, that is acute infection in the young adulthood or immunocompetent persons, then turning of the chronicity, that is acute to chronicity, is 1%. This point they will be asking you in as PG bits. Okay. The degree of liver injury in patients with chronic hepatitis B is variable, that is ranging from none in inactive carriers to mild to moderate to severe. In majority of patients, you will see this infection as silent carriers. They won't be presenting you any symptoms, nor jaundice, nor anything. Sometimes they present only with mild jaundice, and then it is self-resolving. Okay. Among adults with chronic hepatitis B, histological features are of prognostic importance. Okay. So before going into the details of chronic hepatitis B, we should know a little about the hepatitis B virus. So this is a DNA virus that belongs to Hepadnavirus family. There are 8 genotypes which have been identified and labeled A to H. The hepatitis B virus consists of a core. I'll be again showing it to you in a diagrammatic representation. Then you will grasp it more. Okay. So the hepatitis B virus consists of a core surrounded by a surface protein. The virus and the excess of its surface protein, that is surface protein, is known as hepatitis B surface antigen. So these terms are very, very important for you. Okay. Whenever they ask you questions in clinical wise, or this question comes mostly as 4 marks. Rarely it comes at essay. Don't think that it won't come as essay. So then you should be able to mention the serological markers. That is a main scoring of this question. Okay, so this is very important. So the surface protein is known as hepatitis B surface antigen, HBS antigen. These circulate in the blood. So this is what we look for in diagnostically. Humans are the only source of infection. Hepatitis B infection affects 300 million people and is one of the most common causes of chronic liver disease and hepatocellular carcinoma worldwide. So these two are the further stages of the hepatitis. Okay. Hepatitis B virus with or without cirrhosis causes 60 to 80% of hepatic cell carcinoma worldwide. Okay. Hepatic B virus related mortality is estimated between 5 lakh to 1 lakh deaths worldwide per year. This virus is an indication for 15 to 10% of the cases for liver transplantation. So these last 3 points, that is how much percentage of HCC worldwide, how many deaths, and how many percentage of cases are meant for liver transplantation, is important in your PG bits exam. Okay. So 60 to 80% of HCC worldwide, 15 to 10% of cases are meant for liver transplantation. Okay. So here is the diagram you see. So we'll be talking about the detail of the structure again. Okay, I'll be repeating it again. So hepatitis B virus is a small DNA virus with unusual features similar to retroviruses. So this is a prototype virus of the Hepadnaviridae family. So there are 6 particles actually, 6 viral particles, total hepatitis B virus. Okay. So in this, 2 of the viral particles are small spherical structures with a diameter of 20 nanometers and filaments of variable length with a width of 22 nanometers. The spheres and filaments, see, this is the sphere, the blue circle, and these are the filaments. Okay, are composed of hepatitis B surface antigen and host derived lipids without viral nucleic acid. So I am talking about the non-infectious viral particles of hepatitis B virus. Okay, so that is non-important for you. I'm just mentioning it for your knowledge. Okay, so there are 6 types of particles which have been recognized. Out of that, 2 viral particles are non-infectious. Why? Because they are only composed of this hepatitis B surface antigen, but there is no viral nucleic acids. So it is non-infectious. Let's talk about the infectious virion particle, that is this, the diagram. Infectious hepatitis B virion particle is also known as Dane particle, D-A-N-E, Dane. That's why this is also known as Dane's hepatitis, okay? So infectious hepatitis B virion has a spherical double shell structure, as you can see in the diagram. Structure 42 nanometers in diameter, consisting of the lipid envelope containing hepatitis B surface antigen that surrounds an inner nucleocapsid, as you can see, this green one, a nucleocapsid composed of the hepatitis B core antigen. This is composed with virally encoded polymerase and the virally DNA genome. Okay, so the surface antigen, double shell surface antigen inside the nucleocapsid and encasing with the core antigen HBCAG. That consists of the lipid, it consists of the DNA polymerase and the DNA genome. Okay, that is HBV DNA. These are the important points. Okay, and inside between this nucleocapsid and the surface antigen lies the envelope. Okay, that indicates the hepatitis B E antigen. Hepatitis B E antigen. So there is HBS antigen, HBE antigen, HBC antigen. Respective antibodies develop in our body. Okay. So the genome of hepatitis B virus is a partially double-stranded circular DNA. So this we are talking about the DNA. Okay, which is about 3.2 kilobase pairs. Okay. So this is the structure of the hepatitis B virus. Okay. What is the clinical course of hepatitis B virus? Okay. So I will be talking about the typical course of the acute hepatitis B initially, and then how it presents in chronic hepatitis. So hepatitis B, so this is the clinical course where here normal liver, when acute infection affects, almost of it is recovered, self-resolving, okay? And this is the, where the chronic hepatitis, so this much percentage affects the, turns into chronic hepatitis, which in turn results in liver cirrhosis and then hepatic cell carcinoma. So hepatitis B virus DNA is followed by hepatitis B S antigen and hepatitis B E antigen. So these are the first viral markers which is detected in the serum. Hepatitis S antigen may be detected as early as 1 to 2 weeks or as late as 11 to 12 weeks after exposure. So this persistence of the HBS surface antigen is a marker of chronicity. Hepatitis B antigen correlates with the high levels of hepatitis B virus replication and infectivity. So this is important. Presence of hepatitis B antigen indicates high levels of hepatitis B virus replication and infectivity. Within a few weeks, serum alanine and aspartate transaminase, ALT and AST rise and then jaundice appears. Hepatitis B antigen is usually cleared at the peak of illness, whereas hepatitis B surface antigen and hepatitis B viral DNA usually persists in the serum for the duration of the clinical symptoms and it is cleared with recovery. Antibody to HBC antigen appears shortly before onset of illness. Initial being IgM, which then declines, and then levels of IgG arises. Okay. Antibody to HBe antigen usually appears after the clearance of HBe antigen. So this all I'll be showing you in the later slide as in a graph, then you'll understand it clearly. Okay. So clearance of antibody to HBe antigen appears after the clearance of HBe antigen, that is often at the onset of peak of clinical illness. Thus, loss of HBe antigen and appearance of anti-HBe, antibody of HBe, is a favorable serological marker during the acute hepatitis B. Antibody to HBs antigen arises late during the infection, usually during recovery or after clearance of hepatitis B surface antigen. So anti-HBs persists even after recovery, being the antibody-associated immunity against HBV. Okay. So this is the course of clinical course, how it occurs in acute hepatitis B. So what is the course in chronic hepatitis B? This has a similar pattern, initial pattern of serological markers. Okay, that is initially it enters HBV DNA is followed by HBs antigen, then HBe antigen. Okay, so that is with appearance of HBV DNA, HB surface antigen, HBe antigen, and finally anti-HBC. But in these persons with chronic hepatitis, viral replication persists and HB surface antigen, HBe antigen, and HBV DNA continue to be detectable in the serum, often in high titers. Okay, that is the difference between chronic and acute hepatitis. Okay. So this slide shows you that, see, when acute hepatitis B virus infection occurs, max percentage, that is 99%, is self-resolving. It recovers. Okay, only 1% results in death, and it results in acute hepatitis B virus infection. More than 65% it results in subclinical infection, then recovery. Okay, so as I told you, acute infection, if it occurs at infants, it is 90% of chances in turning into chronicity, and if it occurs in adolescent age or immunocompromised stage, it results in 1% chances of turning into chronicity. Okay, so in this, 60 to 80% is non-progressive when chronic hepatitis occurs, and 20 to 40% is progressive, that is cirrhosis, and then results in hepatocellular carcinoma. So this is the clinical course of hepatitis B infection acquired in adults. Okay. What are the modes of transmission? Which is either horizontal transmission or vertical transmission. Horizontal transmission is via parenteral or percutaneous routes, that is needle stick injury, injection drug use, hemodialysis, transfusions. Sexual contact, example, men who have sex with men, sexual promiscuity, or intercourse with HBV infected partners. What about vertical transmission? It is from mother to infant. So this is the modes of transmission. I have shown you diagrammatic wise. Non-sterile tattooing needles, contaminated dialysis equipment, or via contaminated vaccination, non-sterile dental practices, contaminated drug needles, IV drug users, non-sterile body piercing equipment, and etc. Okay. So this slide shows you representing, as I have told you, three clinical, histological, and serological wise we have classified chronic hepatitis B. That is a newer classification. So here we have taken into account the viral load, the enzymes, liver transaminases, ALT and or AST, and the liver histology, based on liver histology. Okay. So initially there is immunotolerant high levels of viral load. Okay. So with the high levels of virus, see, as you can see, the liver enzymes are normal initially. Okay. So this is the HBV tolerant phase. Okay. Here histology is also normal, liver enzymes are normal, but the viral load is high. So when there is an immunological response from the body to the virus, then there is elevation in the enzymes. See? So this thus results in liver damage. Okay, that results in chronic hepatitis. Here then HBV starts clearing. Okay. If this response is sustained over many years and viral clearance does not occur promptly, chronic hepatitis may result in cirrhosis. Okay. But enzymes are elevated initially and then they subside. See, this graph shows clearly. So this is the latent phase. Okay. So in individuals who mount a successful immunological response, viral load falls. HBe antibody develops and there is no further liver damage. Some individuals may subsequently develop. So this is the exceptional thing. Some individuals may develop HBV DNA mutants which escape from immune regulation and viral load again rises with further chronic hepatitis. Mutations in the core protein results in the virus's inability to secrete HB antigen. Normally they have to secrete HB antigen, but due to some mutations in the core protein, that particular virus's inability to secrete HB antigen despite of high levels of viral replication. So as I told you before, viral replication, active viral replication indicates presence of HBe antigen. So in this DNA mutants case, this is known as HBV DNA mutants. So such individuals have HBe antigen negative chronic hepatitis. Okay. So what are the clinical features? So the spectrum of clinical features of chronic hepatitis B is broad, ranging from asymptomatic infection to debilitating disease or even end-stage fatal hepatic failure. So fatigue is seen, persistent or intermittent jaundice, intermittent deepening of jaundice and recurrence of malaise and anorexia, as well as worsening fatigue are reminiscent of acute hepatitis. Such exacerbations may occur spontaneously, often coinciding with the virological reactivation, which may lead to progressive liver injury. So this, when superimposed, will develop well-established cirrhosis, may cause hepatic decompensation. So this slide shows you, so you can remember clearly, diagrammatic wise. So jaundice, pruritus, flu-like symptoms, that is fatigue and fever or malaise, pale or clay colored stools or dark urine, abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, and clinically they show hepatomegaly and blood test to find antibody to the virus. Okay. So what are the complications? So as I told you, complications of cirrhosis occur in end-stage chronic hepatitis that includes ascites, edema, bleeding extraesophageal varices, hepatic encephalopathy, coagulopathy, hypersplenism. What are the extrahepatic complications? Arthralgias and arthritis, purpuric cutaneous lesions like leukocytoclastic vasculitis, immune complex glomerulonephritis, generalized vasculitis, that is polyarthritis nodosa. So how do you diagnose? So as I told you before, this is what I mentioned, the appearance of the antigen and later on the antibodies. Okay. So based on the serology is main important thing. So how do you diagnose? Aminotransferase elevations tend to be modest for chronic hepatitis B, but may fluctuate in the range of 100 to 1000 units. Acute viral hepatitis B. So this point is important. Acute viral hepatitis B, alanine aminotransferase is more raised than aspartate aminotransferase. Whereas in cirrhosis or chronic, aspartate is more elevated than alanine. Okay. So levels of alkaline phosphatase activity tend to be normal or only marginally elevated. In severe cases, Moderate elevations in serum bilirubin, that is 3 to 10 milligrams per deciliter, occur. Hypoalbuminemia and prolongation of prothrombin time, it occurs in severe or end-stage cases. Hyperglobulinemia and detectable circulating autoantibodies are distinctly absent in chronic hepatitis B. That is in contrast to autoimmune. So, hyperglobulinemia and circulating autoantibodies is seen in autoimmune hepatitis. So coming into the details of the serology, in as I am again repeating it. So as I mentioned before, in acute infection, hepatitis B surface antigen is a reliable marker for HBV infection, which appears, that is antibody to hepatitis B surface antigen, appears after about 3 to 6 months, and that persists for many years or even permanently. So the antibody HBS implies whether it either a previous infection, in which case anti-HB core, antibody to HB core is usually also present, or it is seen, so anti-HB surface antibody of HBS is seen in either a previous infection or a previous vaccination, vaccinated persons, okay? Previous vaccination where anti-HBC is not present. The hepatitis B core antigen is not found in the blood, but antibody to it appears early in the illness. Anti-HBC is initially of IgM type with IgG antibody appearing later. So hepatitis B antigen is an indicator, as I told you, is an indicator of active viral replication. It appears only transiently at the outset of illness and is followed by the production of antibody, that is anti-HBe. Chronic HBV infection is marked by the presence of HB surface antigen and anti-HBC, that is IgG, in the blood. Usually, HBe antigen or anti-HBe is also present. So, as you can see in this graph, this is very important. So, at the onset, you can see HB surface antigen develops. After that, after a few things, HBe antigen develops, and peak of clinical illness, you can see both HBe and HBs antigen, and then it declines over 3 months, and then in the peak of clinical illness, we can see anti-HBC. This is the, as you can see, the red line, and the dotted line is the, that is first initially IgG, then IgM, okay, and then at the outset of the illness, after the HBs antigen declines, the anti-HBe rises, okay. So what set of patients can undergo treatment in this case? So we, as I told you, we consider the HBV DNA and the enzymes, that too ALT, as I told you here. ALT is important than AST, okay. So chronic hepatitis B, if there is HBV DNA and ALT elevated, you have to go for treatment. If there is HBV DNA and ALT is normal, you have to consider liver biopsy, in which moderate or severe histological disease is present, then you have to go for treatment. There is no, or there is mild histological disease, then there is no requirement for treatment. And if there is HBV DNA and ALT is not elevated, there is no need of treatment. That is, it is self-resolving. So coming to the management of hepatitis B virus. Management of chronic hepatitis B is directed at suppressing the level of virus replication. So restoration of impaired HBV specific T cell function has been shown following successful suppression of HBV replication with antiviral therapy. As of date, 7 drugs have been approved for treatment of chronic hepatitis B. Injectable interferon alpha and pegylated interferon, that is long-acting interferon bound to polyethylene glycol. Oral agents like lamivudine, adifovir dipivoxil, entecavir, telbivudine, and tenofovir disoproxil fumarate. So the ideal treatment outcome is hepatitis B surface antigen loss with zero conversion. But rarely this goal is achieved, okay? Therefore, in patients who are hepatitis B surface antigen positive at baseline, the expected outcome is loss of hepatitis B E antigen with anti-E0 conversion, clearance of hepatitis B virus DNA, and normalization of liver enzymes. So, loss of hepatitis B E antigen with anti-zero conversion, clearance of hepatitis B viral DNA, and normalization of liver enzymes. In patients who are hepatitis B E antigen negative at baseline, the expected outcome is clearance of hepatitis B viral DNA and normalization of liver enzymes. Patients who are hepatitis B E antigen positive at baseline, treatment should be prolonged for at least 6 months after HBe antigen loss or zero conversion. So these patients should be monitored given the possibility of reactivation. Okay. In patients who are HBe antigen negative at baseline, treatment should be continued indefinitely or until HBs surface antigen loss or zero conversion is achieved. So antiviral resistance is a phenomenon observed with the use of nucleoside and nucleotide analogs. Resistance should be considered in patients with hepatitis B viral DNA level increase from lowest level suppression of achieved while on therapy. Tenofovir and entecavir have a high genetic barrier for resistance, that is lowest susceptibility, and when compared to other nucleoside and nucleotide analogs, and are therefore the preferred oral therapeutic agents. So coming to the first class, interferons. These are antiviral, antiproliferative, and immunomodulatory effects. Interferon alpha and beta bind to the same receptor and have predominantly antiviral effects. Interferon gamma binds to a separate receptor and has more marked immune regulatory action but less potent antiviral effects. So pegylation reduces rate of absorption, renal clearance, decreases immunogenicity, and increases half-life. What is the dosage? Interferon alpha 2A and 2B is given subcutaneously, either 10 million units thrice weekly or 5 million units daily for 4 to 6 months, or peg interferon alpha 2A, that is 180 micrograms weekly, or 2B as 100 micrograms weekly for 48 weeks. What are the complications of interferon therapy? Systemic flu-like symptoms, marrow suppression, emotional lability, that is irritability, depression or anxiety, autoimmune reactions, that is especially autoimmune thyroiditis, miscellaneous side effects such as alopecia, rashes, diarrhea, and numbness and tingling of the extremities. So with the possible exception of autoimmune thyroiditis, all these side effects are reversible upon lowering the dose or cessation of therapy. So coming to the first line treatment, entecavir and tenofovir, as I told you before. Entecavir is an oral nucleoside, that is guanosine analog. What is the dose? 0.5 milligrams orally and 1 milligrams orally in case of lamivudine resistance for 48 weeks. Tenofovir is oral nucleotide, a cyclic analog. The dose is 300 milligrams daily. What is the second line treatment? Telbivudine, edifovir, and lamivudine. So telbivudine is an oral nucleoside, that is thymidine analog. Dose is 600 milligrams daily. Adifovir is oral nucleotide adenosine analog. Dose is 10 milligrams orally daily for 48 weeks. Lamivudine is oral nucleoside, the dideoxy 3C thiacidine analog. Dose is 100 milligrams daily orally for 48 weeks. So possible you can forget the dosages, try to remember, but writing the drugs is very important. Okay. So what are the treatment recommendations? So this, don't get scared of this slide. So recommendations of treatment, as I told you, this is simple. See, if there is baseline HBe antigen reactive and we can divide the, see what are the statuses taken into account.
Very simple. HBe antigen, clinically whether there is any symptoms are there, HBV DNA, and so this point, HBe antigen, HBV DNA, and ALT is the main criteria you have to remember. So HBe antigen reactive. So HBV DNA, what you'll this is the criteria for chronic hepatitis. For baseline less than 2 into 10 to the power 4 and ALT less than or equal to 2 into upper limit of normal. Okay. In those cases, there is no treatment is required. But in chronic hepatitis, where there is HBe antigen reactive, HBV DNA is more than 2 into 10 to the power 4D, and ALT is more than 2 into upper limit of normal, you have to treat. Okay. Cirrhosis, that is divided into compensated and decompensated. Compensated cases, you treat only with oral agents, but not pegylated interferons. Okay. Decompensated, you consider treatment, you give oral agents, still not pegylated interferon, you refer for liver transplantation based on liver biopsy. What about HBe antigen negative cases? Same viral markers, but here more than 10. Obviously, the HBV DNA viral load is important, so more than 10 is considered, and ALT more than 2. Here, same thing. Liver. So you remember this treatment recommendations I have showed you what are taken into account. Okay. So this slide is more important for you. As I told you, this one. Okay. So chronic hepatitis B, what is the basis for treatment? And then you mention these drugs, that is more than enough. Okay. So HBV DNA and alanine transferase increase, treatment is considered. Only HBV DNA increased and ALT is normal. You have to, so it is confusing, it is doubtful. So you consider liver biopsy. Histologically, there is normal or no mild disease, no treatment. Moderate or severe histological features are there, that is, it's going into cirrhosis, you have doubt, you have to go for the treatment. What about HBV DNA and ALT? There's no rise or you're not detectable. No treatment is required. It is self-resolving. Okay. So, coming to prevention, individuals are most infectious when markers of continuing viral replication such as HBe antigen and high levels of hepatitis B viral DNA are present in the blood. Hepatitis B viral DNA can be found in saliva, urine, semen, and vaginal secretions. The virus is about 10 times more infectious than hepatitis C. So always remember, this is more infectious than even HIV. Okay, so which in turn is about 10 times more infectious than HIV C, as I told. So hepatitis B virus is more infectious than hepatitis C, which is in turn more infectious than HIV. You have to be very careful about hepatitis. Before you go into house agency, all must have been vaccinated by hepatitis B. Okay. Recombinant hepatitis B vaccines contain hepatitis B surface antigen, which is available and are capable of producing active immunization in 95% of normal individuals. Infection can also be prevented or minimized by intramuscular injection of hyperimmune serum globulin prepared from blood containing anti-HBs. This should be given with 24 hours or at most a week of exposure to infected blood in circumstances likely to cause infection like needle stick injury, contamination of cuts or mucous membrane, or in case of healthcare workers, they are more exposed. Okay, so what is the prevention? Intramuscular injection of hyperimmune serum globulin. Okay, this is prepared from blood containing anti-HB surface. Okay, antibody to HB surface antigen. Okay, so this should be given within 24 hours. Remember, if any of your family members or even if you are affected, this is the protocol. Neonates born to hepatitis B infected mothers should be immunized at birth and given immunoglobulin. Okay. So what is the overall prognosis of patients with chronic hepatitis? It is directly related to the severity of the disease. So for those with chronic hepatitis and cirrhosis, Remember this. This is also important for you in PG bits. For those with chronic hepatitis and cirrhosis, the 5-year survival rate is about 50%. Okay, so the percentages are important in chronic hepatitis is they repeatedly ask in PG bits, and for you 4 marks question is important. Okay, so hepatitis D virus, as I told you, will be discussed in the next class. Okay, so thank you.